Ialomita County in southeastern Romania is the fruit of a fabulous symbiosis: man, plain, water, and sun. On the transit roads that tie Bucharest, the capital of Romania, with Moldavia and the Black Sea coast, Ialomita County cannot be avoided, and most times is a place for repast where the traveler stops to gaze with amazement upon the horizons of the plains. Any which way you might go into the county, you'll feel you are in imperial lands, with never-ending rolling plains of grain. Here the wheat braids with the sky, corn rises proud as oak, and the sun multiplies in the millions of sunflower faces. Here you contemplate with authentic amazement the profile of traveling crosses, become border stones of Christianity. The Cross of Kirana, a historical monument created to celebrate the visit here by ruler Matei Basarab, seems a giant sword driven into the plain it protects. This is a story about the times and seasons of the plains of Ialomita, a place full of meaning, a land with a strong personality, representative for a way of life and a civilization. Seasons have always been accompanied by the sign of times immemorial. These lands breathe through the cutting cold of winter, through hopeful springs, and the torrid heat of summer. The wells here are also a trademark of Ialomita Plains. The sound that the bucket makes when touching the water is pure poetry. The lapping of water is a promise of life and vitality. How graceful the dipping arm of the well that brings waters from deep in the ground to quench thirst. The image of Baragan, with its face roughened by drought and dry wind, with a fierce look and hot breath, is real, but by no means exclusive. The plain today is very different. Ialomita is not what it is assumed to be. It is more than meets the eye, and that is why it has to be rediscovered and known closely. Wheat is the greatest wealth of Ialomita villagers, the fruit of past sacrifice and the promise of a better future. In the rocking of wind, the wheat seems like moving hosts of spears, and you think of the legends speaking about invaders having to hack their way through the protective shield that the wheat made. Ialomita was, and still is, a land blessed by God, who always put on our table one of the great Christian symbols, our daily bread. On a mainly private basis, but also based on high fertility, agriculture is rethinking its priorities and is adapting to new requirements. Because agriculture was, and still is, the main occupation of Ialomita's inhabitants, and its history is a legacy that has to be known and received by future generations. In Slobozia, locals have created a national museum of agriculture, an ample cultural and scientific institution with a remarkable identity in the context of Romanian culture and in the larger context of European agricultural museography. The museum's heritage is special, taking visitors on a time journey. It creates a living vision of people's lives on these lands in all its aspects, with all its stages and customs. Through its amplitude and the originality of its design, the museum's programs have given birth to some unique events, rediscovering traditional farming practices, traditional crafts, tools, agricultural machinery, and the European dimension of certain stages in Ialomita's farming history. As a place of travel, the plain is always surprising because nature lures you and overcomes the soul with sights that are unique. In Ialomita, natural resources have always been a challenge, but people decided to stay here, and not for a lack of reasons, because the land bewitched them and tied them to it forever. In the scorching heat of summer, the plain is stunned into motionlessness. The thistles, a symbol and royal signet of Baragan, are mobile elements that breathe the ephemeral of plants, but convey eternity unto the plains. Water, such as it is sometimes hard to spot in the torrid and dry summer. To bring it down, myths and rites of the plains appeared, sometimes as prayers, sometimes as dances to invoke rain and wealth. It is mythology carved into the furrows, the history of man set into ritual incantations. One such ritual is that of Paparude, when the prettiest village maidens are called to bring the rain by dancing their purity in the outdoors. Magic and charm is also to be discovered in the tradition of the Dragaice, mythical beings that appear in the fields in small groups during the night between June the 23rd and 24th, to bring seed to sapling, to defend the crops from fire, and bring about the springing of healing herbs. That is when the girls make wreaths from plants and sheaves of wheat, a divine effigy with miraculous powers that brings about luck, health, and wealth. When the maidens are caught in the spell of a ritual dance, the Dragaika dance, according to local tradition, if you bathe in a river that night, all your wishes will come true, and all your sins and worries are washed away. The summer's ritual calendar also prescribes in many villages the custom of the Kaloyan. It is a rain-making custom, just like the Paparude. At its origin, this was a rite to represent the death of the god of vegetation. Kaloyanul may also be associated with the Dacian custom of sending a messenger to the gods through death. The entire ritual revolves around an earthen figure, which is surrounded by flowers, red-dyed eggshells, candles, and a cross, again displaying a syncretism between Christianity and pagan elements. When all is ready, a mock burial takes place, a sacrifice to the heavens for the blessing of rain. The vitality of these regions and their manner of holding on relies heavily on the beneficial presence of two waters, Ialomita and the Danube. Feeling their friendly demeanor, people settled on the water's edge because in Baragan, water truly means life. If one looks at it closely, the river Ialomita resembles a giant reptile, snaking through the middle of the plain from west to east, ending up in the Danube. The great river itself hugs the lands at the east of the county, giving the locals a chance to take advantage of the wealth of the ecosystem. At times, the hazy curtain of air in the Ialomita plain is harrowed by birds. People's lives are tied to them because the coming of the storks is an omen of hope. The comfort of flight pierces the heart, and when the storks leave, it is the sign of winter, of the coming of a piercingly cold wind from far-off steppes. The exceptional area between the Borca Canal and the Old Danube course has elicited a complex approach for the use in full of an exceptional cultural and natural heritage, meant to be integrated in European projects and tourist circuits. At the same time, the hydrographic landscape is balanced by lakes and ponds with an important potential for exploitation. The lakes of Baragan are oases that quench not only the thirst of the earth and its people, but is at the same time a unique natural heritage, where most animal and plant species are protected and whose tourist potential is a challenge. At the same time, this area carries weight in the country's fishing patrimony. Built mainly for producing electricity, the Dridu Dam is today very significant because it allows to permanently control the flow of the Ialomita and Prahova rivers, preventing floods that would endanger all the human dwellings on the banks of the two rivers. The fertility of the lands and waters of Ialomita County also provides people with generous resources for other occupations. Gathering wood in forests and dales, responsibly carried out, animal husbandry in a natural, pollution-free environment, expanding the food industry and other activities. Rooted in a modern European reality, the county is shaping its new personality, in which preserving traditional values blends happily with promoting an identity typical of another historical time. Ialomita County is also extending another invitation, a walk down Stone Age lanes. Archaeological findings from times immemorial show that this is the heart of an ancient culture and civilization. The site in Piscul Crășani has sheltered human life from the Neolithic. The culture uncovered here was designated the Boian culture. In Piscul Crășani, an isolated acropolis was uncovered, defended by deep ravines. Here, Dromachides founded the legendary fortress of Helis. The mound on which the old fortress lay was expanded by the Getae, who proved that they mastered the defensive building of earth walls before the Romans did. Popina Bordușan is another significant archaeological site, a sensational find of 2 decades ago. Here, on an island on the Borcea Canal, a 7,000-year-old civilization was discovered, dating back to a time before the civilization of the Egyptians or the Sumerians. This is the dawn of European civilization. Experts from the Ialomita County Museum and the National History Museum of Romania, who have been digging this site for the last 20 years, are talking about a community at peace with itself and the world. The research at the Popina Bordușan site is bringing to life people who have lived here 7 millennia back. The mixed Dacian and Roman population have left in this area remains typical of the Dridu site, the center of the culture with that same name. The Dridu culture proved the high level of social and economic development of the population of the Bărăgan Plains in Ialomita. A special place in Ialomita's specific archaeological, historical, and cultural space is taken by barrows, Scythian burial mounds raised in the 5th century BC. Here, in the funeral chambers supported by massive wooden beams or stone blocks, were buried the military and religious leaders of the community, accompanied by their weapons, vessels, and sometimes their horses. Almost 100 barrows are known to exist in Ialomita, with the most spectacular found on the high plateau of Platonești. From a distance, they stand out in the horizon as true pyramids of the plains. At the place where the Ialomita flows into the Danube, there was the legendary city of wool, also known as Orașul de Floci, the place where, in 1558, the one who was to become Michael the Brave was born, the ruler who united all Romanians for the first time. As a city of hills surrounded by water, it was called by some the Venice of Baragan. At its peak in the 15th and 16th century, lost in the 18th century forever, it is a city representative of the Romanian Middle Ages, placed between urban and rural spaces. Today, Orașul de Floci is a priority national archaeological site, integrated into the European Council program Restoration of Our Common European Heritage, which opens up the perspective of promoting the site in Europe along with the entire cultural heritage of Ialomita. Built on Christian faith and morals, the spirituality of the plains is found in several 18th century wooden churches, Dridusnagov, Poiana, and Albești, which are classified as archaic monuments. The wooden church of Saint Paraschiva in Dridusnagov was built in 1782 by Captain Neagoe during the reign of Alexander Ypsilanti, and is preserved well enough to accommodate the holding of Mass and visits from tourists. The main decorative element is the carved braided girdle that surrounds the outside walls, resembling a furrow left by the plow in the field. An original and authentic historical and architectural monument, the Poiana wooden church was documented as early as 1737 in the village of Poiana, from whence it was moved in 2000 to be carried to the National Agriculture Museum in Slobozia. Another landmark that could easily integrate in national and international tourist circuits is the Maia Catargi Cultural and Religious Museum Complex, dedicated to the memory of Barbu Catargiu, the country's first prime minister, member of a generation that founded modern Romania. Collection consists of religious and devotional books, icons painted on wood, glass, and metal, as well as priestly garments and vessels dating back to the 18th century. In a shrine lie the garments worn by Barbu Catargiu on the day he was assassinated in Bucharest under mysterious circumstances on the Metropolitan Church Hill. In the village of Maia, he had his lands since 1800, close to the postal road linking Bucharest to Moldavia. A lover of all things beautiful, he built here a mansion of 52 rooms, and around it, landscape artist Meyer, the creator of Cismigiu Park in Bucharest, has drawn up a fabulous park with exotic trees and plants that people had never seen around these parts. In the churchyard, there are two sophora trees which have been declared monuments of nature. The church shelters Barbu Catargiu's tomb, and a local legend says that when he was assassinated, the cross on top of the church was felled by lightning in a freak storm on the day of the assassination. Another name of European fame is Evangelia Zappa, a mysterious character who spent half his life in the village of Broșteni in Ialomita County. He was a precursor of modern Olympic Games, introduced modern elements in farming, contributed to the creation of the Romanian Academy, and financed book printings. What is left today are the church, the ruins of his family's mansion, and the family crypt. Zappa's wish to restore the Olympic Games was immortalized on his tombstone, where it is written in Greek, "Let Greece have Olympic Games once again." Samples of material and spiritual life of the past are exhibited by the County Museum, displaying a cultural and chronological succession of events in the life of human communities that have left archaeological evidence in the county, starting with the Neolithic in the 6th millennium BC down to the present day. The archaeology collection has very special objects, unique in Romania. The great diversity of pottery, farming implements, house and craft tools, as well as the hearth decorated with solar symbols uncovered at Piscul Crășani, prove the great development of the fortress in the 1st and 2nd centuries BC. All these things, in time and over centuries, are proof that the people of Ialomita Plains have managed always to capitalize on existing resources and to develop communities that have stood the test of time. Inhabitants made the best of the meager construction materials that they were able to pull out of the ground. Braided wicker, walls made of staves, and panels made of tree branches, adobe buildings, and thatched roofs. This is how the personality of Ialomita houses took shape. Man breathed soul into the wooden walls. The soul of the ground they stripped off the shoulders of the slumbering giant that is the plain of Bărăgan. Taking to the road again, we reach the memorial house of great orchestra conductor Ionel Perlea in the village of Ograda. His marvelous baton has blessed the Scala of Milan, the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and many other philharmonics in Europe and in America. He had an impressive musical and aesthetic training, had a refined knowledge of voices, and was an extraordinary psychologist. He modulated behavior with a rare elegance, setting up a very efficient rapport with all the artists he was leading. Said about Ionel Perlea, Francesco Siciliani, one of the greatest personalities of Italian and international musical life in the 20th century. In order to honor his memory and wishing to uncover a special musical genre, the lead, Ialomita has been holding since 1992 the National Ionel Perlea lead festival and competition. An ambitious, unique project carrying on the name Ionel Perla to future generations. The Ionel Perla UNESCO Cultural Center provides Ialomita County with an opportunity to affirm Romanian culture and civilization values by organizing complex cultural, artistic, and scientific manifestations with fine art and photography exhibitions. Ialomita County has sent soaring to the peaks of Romanian literature great writers such as Constantin Țoiu, Ștefan Bănulescu, Mircea Dinescu, and others. The county library, bearing the name of Ștefan Bănulescu, with its specialized services and a collection of over 200,000 books, provides access to cultural information, an opportunity for sustainable, ongoing education, a useful way to spend one's free time, develop one's personality for readers of all ages. The annual book salon is meant and designed to provide a means to publicize new book acquisitions and to promote dialogue between writers, publishers, and the public. Another personality that has forever changed the Ialomita landscape is Anghel Salini, a brilliant construction engineer that was to gift Europe with the longest bridge of its time and one of the most important metal bridges of that era. The Fetești and Cernavoda bridges have become symbols of engineering innovation, true world premieres, using for the first time ever a new system of console beams for the bridge's frame and soft steel in the panels. The century that has passed since the bridge was finished and inaugurated in the presence of King Carol I is plentiful proof of the success with which Romanian engineering passed its first major exam. When new bridges were built, starting in 1980, next to Anghel Salini's bridges, the Danube Bridges complex became not only an achievement of great economic significance, but also a work of art and ingenuity. Infrastructure is being modernized at a fast pace. Economic and social competitiveness and performance are on the rise and indicate a potential that has not yet been fully realized, but also a foundation on which to build the future of these lands. The cities of Slobozia, Fetești, and Urziceni, the towns of Țăndărei, Amara, Căzănești, and Fierbinți, as well as the 59 villages of the county, are constantly changing their face. People are seeking that special symbiosis between old and new to improve urban planning and the social environment without altering traditions. Industry is resizing and reorienting itself, and services are more important in the country's economy. people of Ialomita define a way of thinking that integrates the understanding that perennial values have to be preserved, have to be integrated into new standards that are meant to bring prosperity for the county and its people. The Ialomita Center for the Conservation and Promotion of Traditional Culture has as its mission the discovery and assessment of Ialomita traditional cultural realities and promoting traditional values as an integral part of a national culture, integrating them into the European circuit. These are not just generous objectives. They suppose a constant link with the people of villages, with rural civilization as a whole. Among the significant events organized to this end are itinerant folklore shows like Singers at Home, Zarzarika Zarzara, and When I Was in Ialomita, along with the Baragan Flower International Folklore Festival and the Ion Albeșteanu National Festival and Competition for Young Traditional Artists.
Albeșteanu nu e mort, este etern printre noi. Îi port o veșnică recunoștință pentru tot ce a făcut.
Frânge-te și-ați după-mi vina, să nu știe lumea toată pe unde am umblat odată.
Zice o vorbă bătrânească, nu e om să nu iubească.
Oficial merge bine, bine se crede dor de tine, ce-mi dor de tine, ce-mi dor de tine.
The Amara Youth Trophy National Pop Music Festival and Competition is a precursor of the famous Pop Music Festival in Mamaia. It is a launching pad for young vocal artists. These places, miraculously fated by nature to delight the senses and provide for well-earned rest for the people of the city, have been preserving for centuries the charm of this unique blend of sun and salt that is the Amara Spa Resort, known as the Pearl of Baragan. The naturally occurring medicinal mud, renowned for its curative properties, and the modernization of its treatment and accommodation facilities make Amara an important center for rest and treatment, included in any spa tourism packages. The capital of Ialomita County, the city of Slobozia, is a prosperous city of the plains with modern urban planning and with economic, social, cultural, and sports venues that bring joy and hope in the hearts of its inhabitants. Each park is a true oasis of green in a dry land, with fountains that rain coolly over the torrid heat of summer. Slobozia is home to the Saint Voivod's Monastery, one of the most important religious and architecture monuments of Baragan. The edifice was patroned by Yanake Karaja and finished by the great ruler Matei Basarab. Here is found an impressive collection of religious objects and documents from the 17th and 18th centuries, wrapped in the fog of times long gone. The Episcopal Cathedral is an exceptional building, a symbol of eternal orthodoxy in these lands. By the grace of God, people had the audacity of raising this wonderful monument of soulful modesty, the Episcopal Cathedral, that stands as a step to heavens and to faith. The sunny faces of these children is a ray of hope and certainty for future times and seasons in Ialomita. A land full of mystery, picturesque and fascinating, awaiting to be discovered. That is the miracle of the plains of Ialomita.